Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, hello, welcome. This is Essential Patience and I am Patience. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about reasons to avoid credit cards. Now, I'm not an anti-credit card person. In fact, I do have quite a few credit cards. I think that there's a place in personal finance for credit cards. However, not everybody is a credit card person. In fact, I think most people in the United States are not credit card people. And that can be supported by the fact that credit card debt reached over $1 trillion in the United States in July and August of this year. So what does that tell us? A lot of people have a ton of credit card debts, and it's okay not to be a credit card person. And there are several reasons why maybe you should not get a credit card. Maybe you're a type of person who just would want to live a life without one. Even though it may seem not normal, it's actually more common than you think. One of the first reasons why you may want to avoid credit cards at all costs is if you want to avoid getting into debt. Now, I do know that some people are like, well, just pay it off at the end of every month. And I do that. I've never carried a balance. I don't think that it is good to practice using a credit card for things that you cannot afford. If you've seen my other videos on credit cards, I don't think credit cards are evil, but I do think that they should be used as debit cards. If you can't afford to buy it outright, you can't afford to put it on a credit card. And that's where psychologically some people disconnect. There are people who, when they keep swiping that card, they're so disconnected from it that it feels like it's free money. But credit card is not free money. It has never been free money, especially with interest rates so high. Average credit cards interest rates are like 20 to 30% per year. So you're losing out on so much money if you're carrying a balance. So if you want to avoid slipping into debt, you may want to consider not getting a credit card at all. There's some people who will be like, hey, I want to get a credit card, but I'll pay it at the end of every month. Yet they end up not being credit card people and keeping a balance, buying more than they can afford. And before you know it, you're in credit card debt. You can never get into credit card debt if you don't have a credit card. That's one way to think about it. Which leads to number two, which is the temptation to overspend. I am the type of person, when I'm using my card, I think about it because I like to budget things before I spend. Very rarely would I just spend without budgeting first. Like, it has to be some sort of emergency situation. But no matter what, I have a category for spending, so I don't just spend. It has to fit in a category. If it doesn't fit, I have to either make one or just be like, this is not a need, so why am I spending on it? I like to categorize my needs, my wants, and how much I'm spending, so I rarely overspend. But with saying that, there's some people who don't feel the exact same way. There are people out here in 2023 who don't even have budgets, so they tend to overspend a lot because they have a credit limit. Say you have a credit limit of like $12,000 on your credit card, and you're swiping, but you know you don't have $12,000 in your bank account. But it almost feel like, oh, I have a $12,000 credit limit, so I can spend as much as I want. But seriously, is that the path you want to go down on? And so if you're the type of person who tends to overspend on credit cards, it might be time to get rid of that plastic and have plastic surgery, chop it up. Because it just may not be doing your personal finance any favors. Next is interest rates and fees. Now, if you have a bank account that you're spending out of, you're the one getting the interest, and there should be no fees, at least with a good, decent bank. My bank doesn't charge me any maintenance fees, any usage fees, I have no minimums. Instead, I just have some really good savings interest rates. On the other hand, with credit cards, you're the one paying interest rates, very high interest rates. Like I said, 20 to 30% on average, and you would end up carrying a brunt of fees if they have different types of fees for you to do a payment plan or even just like annual fees. So I have only one credit card with an annual fee, and I find it to be worth it because it's an airline points credit card, and so I'm able to get a free check back every time I fly. And this year, I think I've already flown like 4 times. So the money that it costs for an annual fee has already made itself up several times. So I definitely see value in it. But some people see the opposite, where you're being charged hundreds and thousands of dollars in interest rates and fees every single year. So make sure that you check your credit card balance, know how much you're paying interest rates, and it might be time that you got rid of your plastic, pay off all your debts, and never use it again. So the next one is lack of financial discipline. And this is something that is harder to do when you use credit cards or cards in general. Because let's think about it this way. Some people use the cash system, the envelope system, where they get their deposit for the month, they get the cash out, and then they put it in envelopes, and then they spend out of that envelope, and when it's done, it's done. That's it. There's no money left. Psychologically speaking, it's like, okay, I'm at the end. And you can even see when you're getting to the end because you're supposed to do categories. However, when you're swiping a card, since there are no categories, and there seems to be an endless amount of money for your credit limit, more than you probably have in your bank account, there's no discipline with it. When you're spending and you see your bank account reducing in amount, you think, oh my God, like I'm getting to the bottom. And you probably don't want to hit the bottom to the point where you have no money. But we do that on credit cards. So there's a point where I've heard of people who say have $8,000 in credit card debt, but then they have like $10,000 in their bank account. And psychologically, they don't want to pay off the credit card debt because they don't have only $2,000. But realistically speaking, you only have $2,000, probably less with the interest that is accrued on that credit card debt. So it's really important that we are able to have self-discipline and only spend within our budgets. Next is credit score impact. If you're the type of person who cares about credit score, then you have to find different ways to make sure that you sustain that credit score, whether it's taking out some loans, getting a mortgage. I mean, all those things affect your credit score. And especially with credit cards, if you have credit card debt or accrued credit card debt, it can affect your credit score negatively. If you're the type of person who doesn't care at all about credit score, let's say you've already made the biggest purchases of your life, cars, a house, and you don't see any reason why you ever even take out any loans, you can close all of your credit accounts and just have your credit score drop to 0, which doesn't mean it's like the lowest. It just means that they can't determine it. And let's say you decide to sell your house and buy a new house. You can do manual underwriting for mortgage. There are different ways that you can live without a credit score. I know it seems really hard these days, and sometimes it does take effort, but it is possible to be able to live a really normal life, even in the United States of America, with no credit cards and no credit score. Next is security concerns. And I'm actually the type of person who does have security concerns. So I barely and rarely ever use my debit card because I don't want people taking out of my debit account, my checking account or savings. Like, no, absolutely not. First of all, I authenticate sites, so I only use trusted sites and trusted stores to buy things. But even more, I always use my credit card. Very rarely do I spend directly from my checking account. Oftentimes I use my checking account to pay off my credit card. So I don't have any like monthly subscriptions or, you know, monthly things that directly connects to my checking account. Instead, I like to do things manually and pay off things and look at every single charge that's coming to my checking account. And therefore, I do not use my debit card to buy food, gas, any of that. No, it is way too weird out here. If something happens, which I have had fraud on my credit card at least like 3-4 times since I've had it, and that would probably be 3 years. So I like the security being able to come like, hey, like these charges are pending. Make sure, you know, you can cancel them before they pend. You address this versus my debit card. I definitely never had any fraudulent activity on my debit card. I don't think so. Now my old account or my current account. So that's something that I take very seriously as well. The next thing is complexity when it comes to rewards and how to maximize your credit card or your credit card usage. Because sometimes I see people are like, oh, get this credit card for the miles, get this credit card for cashback, and get this credit. And I'm not gonna say I've never done it. However, I think that trying to play Monopoly to grab every single piece of extra thing you can get is a bit of a scam because these credit card companies, they know it. That's why, psychologically speaking, they're enticing you with these rewards so you can keep swiping. Just because my credit card is offering like 2-3% back on restaurants this month doesn't mean I will go to a restaurant. No credit card is gonna make me spend money on something that I don't need. Or even the miles, getting points on this. If you don't need it, don't buy it. That's why I tell you, use it as a debit card. So my debit card company is not gonna entice me to spend my money with anything. Imagine spending $10 only to get 4% cash back. Make it make sense. You're never gonna get more out of a credit card than a credit card company is willing to give you. Promise you. You're not going to outdo them in any way, shape, or form. So make sure that you know this. And sometimes to avoid all these complexities and people jump from credit card to credit card and opening out hundreds of credit cards, I would think that's avoiding credit cards altogether might be the move for some people who just don't want to deal with this whole matrix and the rat race of trying to optimize your credit card use. The next one is just alternative ways of paying. There's so many different ways to pay now that you don't need to rely on a credit card. I mean, I don't think you ever have to like rely on credit cards, but There's some places that maybe at first wouldn't take, you know, more than this type of credit card or that one, but nowadays people are just trying to get paid, so they are willing to have different methods of payments, whether that's through Venmo. So let's say you only have a debit card and you don't want to use it everywhere, you can use things like Apple Pay or even PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. Like, there's so many different ways nowadays that people take payments that if you don't want to go through the credit card method, it's okay. You can still have security in that and use those as alternative methods of payments. Next are just your financial goals. Some people have financial goals that do not include credit cards, and that can really be good for some people, especially if you're a person who was in a lot of credit card debt and now you've paid it off or you're trying to pay it off. You may just want to put the credit card away and not use it to benefit your financial goals. Because if you have a spending problem using your credit card and you're trying to pay off the debt, but then you still keep using it, it might just be time to have that plastic surgery and cut it out, so you're not falling back to your old habits and keep accumulating and staying in debt. So some people, it's really beneficial that they don't have the credit card at all. And it's okay for one of these people whose financial goals just does not align with having a credit card, who is like a moral issue for them. They don't have a credit card for that reason, and that's good too. Your reason for choosing not to have a credit card is good enough. And last but actually not the least is for simplicity purposes. If you just have one checking account, one high yield savings account, that's how you manage your money and it helps you, that's great. Some people just need simplicity. They don't need like 3-4 credit cards and trying to make sure, oh, this one is for dining out, this one is for gas, this one is for vacation. What's the point of those? Because sometimes it takes out so much from you rather than what it's giving back to you. So you may just want the simplicity of having one account where all your expenses come out of, and then one account for your savings. Of course, have an investment account, retirement account, all those as well. But for your everyday money management, some people just don't want to have to go check this credit card. Oh, I have to pay off this credit card. This credit card is due here. This credit card is due on the 10th. This one is due on the 15th. This one, I can't use it. It's so much. It's so much that some people, for simplicity purposes, they choose not to have it, and I totally agree. So for whatever reason why you choose not to have a credit card, or you're considering just getting rid of your credit card altogether, let me know if any of these reasons resonate with you. I've definitely thought about it, and I do think that maybe in the future there might be a time where I would consider not having a credit card, or even just having a 0 credit score, because I already bought a car and I definitely said that my next car is going to be in cash. So once I get a house, once I'm like a stable life, I do wonder if I would just be that person to just result to having no credit score, but who knows. But with that, I'm bringing this video to an end. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already, and let me know in the comment section, what are your reasons for hesitating to get a credit card if you don't have one, or maybe you have one, what are your reasons for getting it? And if you want to just get rid of the one you have, what are your reasons? I think everybody's reasons are very valid. So share down below with us, and I'll be sure to respond to your comments. Thank you so much. Be notification bell because I post 2 videos a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays. Come on over because there'll be a new video waiting for you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.